Okay. Okay, so the person that I've been hearing all day is here. Do you want me to relay messages or do you want her to just step in?
Step in.
Okay. This is your mother. This is your mother. This is Hiawatha. But it's also your mother. I'm also your mother. I've been your mother before on other planes and other lifetimes. And I was your mother in this lifetime as well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But my name with my personality right now that I'm coming to you right now is Hiawatha. And you are Kateri.
Thank you.
I'm trying to make sure that I say everything in your language. So sometimes it might take me a minute because I know you don't understand my language.
What does Hiawatha mean?
Creator of rivers, I think.
Oh.
Which rivers is, water is spiritual in our nation. Water is spiritual. So water brings life. So I guess it could say creator of life, but quite literally, if you were to say the name as you were speaking and you say the words creator of rivers, it would say Hiawatha.
Thank you.
I am also understanding that you have been drawn to cooking.
Yes.
That is natural. And some of the times when you see the lights and the shining things around you, especially in the skies or outside when you're outside, that is your nation who have been protecting you for this whole life, who have been making sure that you don't get caught up in any situations that you cannot get yourself out of. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So those are your people, and they have been protecting you because they made a vow to protect you. Would you want me to talk to you about your past life or your mission today? I know you want both, but which one do you want me to start with?
Oh. Mission today.
So in the Iroquois people, and there's another word for it, and I can't think of how to pronounce it in your language. How Hamanachi, maybe? There's another word for it. You can research and find it. But in our nation, we have 6 nations, and we are part of the Mohawk Nation, and we have a problem now today. We have a few problems because our girls are getting kidnapped and our women are getting kidnapped, and they are being taken for abuse in the sexual world and then murdered. And when we reach out to authorities, they say, you have your own authorities. But when our authorities try to accomplish anything in this matter, they are shut down and they are not respected. So number one priority that they want you to start paying attention to is these girls and these women are being kidnapped. They are being sold into the sex slave. Some of them are being just locked up in someone's house until they die, and they're being used and abused. And this sounds like something from a movie or something from 100 years ago, but this is happening more than ever right now, and it is a big secret in this country. Which also another thing is, in this country, we are the first people of this country. I know ultimately you know that Native Americans are the original people of this country. This is our country, but I think you pronounce it Hiawatha. I think that's how you say Iroquois in your language, because Iroquois is a white people word because they couldn't pronounce our word. But I think it says Hiawatha. Anyways, these are the oldest people in this country. These are the first people from back when all of the people separated from South Africa and migrated. Our tribe was the first tribe that found America. So it's disheartening because we have these colonies and we have these 6 tribes, including the Mohawk, which is our tribe, right? And they still exist today, although in much smaller quantities. And we know that this is actually our land, but we also know that we were raised in not fighting unless it's necessary. And also with the white man, we have seen that if we speak up, we get murdered. But could you imagine when your child goes to school, if your child goes to a white school, which most of ours do not, when they go to school, they are taught that the people who came here first was the white man. And that is this country, that is what they believe. But if you just for one moment just think about how it feels to know the truth of this country, and no one is fighting for that truth to be told. And it needs to be honored, because until it's honored for the truth of who was here first, which we are not saying that it's only for us. We believe that everybody has a place. But when you're lying and saying to your children and all of these people around the world that the white man was the one that discovered this land, then you're lying. And so whenever you're lying, then you're never going to have peace. You're always going to have discord, because how can you have peace when everything is based on a lie? Why are you worshiping these men who supposedly created your country, but also killed us, who really were the first people here? And another thing, the Hiawatha people, I have no idea if I'm saying that right, Jennifer. This is Christy. I'm sorry. I have no idea if I'm saying that right, but I think I am. She's trying to get me to say it right. Okay, sorry. Okay, she's back. The Hiawatha people, they trained the white people when the colonizers got here. We are the ones that sat down and taught them about democracy, because we are the first and only Native American tribe that had a democracy, which means that we had rules and we had laws so that people couldn't just go and do whatever they wanted to do. So the Hiawatha men they always regarded the women as higher than them. And it's not about gender or worshiping women or anything like that. It's because the Hiawatha men are the ones that realize that the women are more calm and lead from their heart. And the men, if they are allowed to do what they feel is necessary, they will let their anger and their impulses control them. And they did not want that to be the way that life worked. So once they realized that the women could stay calmer and think more logically and think with their hearts, the men would submit to that, because they didn't want anger and impulse to be the way that everything was done. They understood it was more wise to think with your heart. So anyways, whenever we created our democracy, because out of the 6 tribes, which it used to be 5 tribes and now it's 6 tribes, but out of the 6 tribes, there would be fighting about a land ownership, or fighting about if someone's child from this tribe could marry someone's child from this tribe, and things like that. And the women were the government. The women were the only government. And the older the woman was, the higher of a place she had in government. So if you're a female and you're older, then you have a more of a powerful role in the government. And so even though the men were the head of the tribes, and they would go to the meetings to discuss if certain things were allowed between the nations, which it's called nations, but nations in our language doesn't mean the same thing as nations in your language. Nations in our language just means tribes. So, or a branch off of tribes. So the men would go to these meetings and they would decide things, but The men had to stick to the exact thing that the woman told them to stick with. So the men were elected and fired by the women based on their performance and how much they could stick to, because the women would lead with their heart, and the women didn't want wars. So if the men would stick to what the women had decided already in their own personal government, then they could keep ascending higher in their roles as the chief or whatever. But back to what I was saying about the government, we had a democracy, and the democracy was to, like, for instance, the biggest rule was, if this is going to affect your fourth generation under you, or approximately 90 years, for a fourth generation under you, let's say two people are going to go to court, even though it wasn't court, but that's the best term I can compare it to. Two people were going to go to court because they were fighting over something. The person that was considered the judge, which again is not the appropriate word, but it's what you would understand to be the word. So the person that was the judge would decide who's for. So the rule was, is this going to affect fourth generation under you? You had to consider fourth generations under you, or 90 years. And if that generation was going to be affected by this decision that you have made, then you get punished. But if it was just going to be a temporary consequence, like maybe you just lost dinner for one night because someone stole your crop, but they didn't steal enough to, like, if the consequences were just temporary, and we could say in 1 year, is this still going to matter? Then you didn't get consequences. You just got some wisdom, and you would have to do some work with some of the women to learn some wisdom to make better choices. But if your choice, so like if someone had raped your daughter, and that choice is going to affect more than 4 generations, because what if she gets first of all, what if she gets pregnant, and that pregnancy is a product of rape, which we didn't have that much rape, but what I'm saying is, example. So if someone raped your daughter and then you take them to court, or the daughter takes them to court, that's going to affect every generation under her, because either she gets pregnant, and that's a physical manifestation of the consequence, or she has emotional distress, she has spiritual trauma. That's going to affect the way that she raises her children and their children. So do you see, that's how we would decide if the crime needed a punishment. And usually if the crime needed a punishment, the person did have to pay back that debt to that family. They would usually just become, the slave is not the right word. It's not a right word, because everyone has free will. No one was locked up against their will. No one was chained anywhere. The person understood that this is what had to happen. They would be rejected by society if they didn't do whatever the deemed punishment was. So like you could say slave, but really it's just like free worker. So that person had to come to your family every day for whatever the amount of time that he has to serve. Let's say it's 10 years. He has to come to your family every day for 10 years and do whatever work they need him to do for free. But the determination would be, is this going to affect your generations in 90 years? And if it wasn't, if someone just did something stupid like again, like stole enough food for a plate of dinner, or stole enough food where you lost your income for a year, the judge would have to decide if that, and so both people would calmly and peacefully present their argument, and then the judge would have to decide if that's going to affect your family in 4 generations or in 90 years. And if it is, then that person gets a punishment. But if it's not going to, then that person just has to spend time with a spiritual leader to learn how to make more wise decisions. That way, there's not all kinds of conflict going on all the time. But the reason I'm telling you this story and these examples is because when the white man, the colonizers, came to our land, we became friends with them. We thought that they were our friends, and it was kind of neat to have something different and someone who didn't look like us. And we wondered what the spiritual implications were. So we taught them our ways, and we taught them what a democracy was. And how to have a democracy because where they came from, it was not a democracy. Where they came from, there was a king and a queen, and those people were the one. It was very radical. Those people were the ones that made all the decisions and the choices. But when they learned about what a democracy was, how you could basically vote and figure out what needs to have consequences and what doesn't, then that's how they based. But you know what they forgot? What the white man forgot to do whenever they created their example of their democracy, which they stole that idea from us, what they forgot to do is they forgot to show women respect. They forgot to understand that everyone is equal. And they thought that only, so that's where everything went different. Because women are equal. People that don't look like you are equal. Children are equal. There's different levels of wisdom that people can earn based on their life experiences. But essentially everyone is equal. So I've been waiting a long time to be able to tell you all of this because this land that you have now, not you, but this whole country you call America, it's not united. It's extremely divided. But yet you came from, and this land came from a place where everything was supposed to be united and everybody was welcome as long as they would understand the democracy that we had set out. Now, I know that you wanted to know about your present mission, but
It's okay.
I had to tell you a little bit about that to get you to understand why we're so invested in you. So I told you about the girls that are getting kidnapped and raped. You won't have to do very much research to find that for yourself. You search inside of your heart and inside of yourself to figure out what you can do to bring more awareness to that. If you can write a book, if you can write an article, if you can share on your social media, if you can just become more aware of what's going on and how no one cares, and try to see if you can find someone that cares, and try to see if you can find a way to get the government to care about our tribes, because we're still here and everybody wants to make sure that we're not acknowledged in any way. We just get land given to us and we have our own government, but they still come in and they kidnap us and they sell us and they rape us, and when our men try to protect us, they kill them, and then no one finds out about it. So you have your Black Lives Matter movement, and we're not disparaging that, but why is that important, but what's happening to our current people not important? Also, Takari, you have to understand that your urges to learn how to cook homemade food comes from your heritage. And I have been trying to talk to you about the importance of learning how to make things homemade. If you make your bread homemade, it's more healthy for you. If you're not using white flour, it's more healthy for you. If you're just doing anything with your hands, if you're going to make something with your hands and you're going to pray and you're going to put your heart into it and you're going to enjoy what you're doing, like when you make your pies with your granddaughter, that's a great example. But you're putting your love into that, and it's nourishing the people that you're feeding, including yourself, more than you could ever think it could. So it's important because it is inside of you to learn how to use your hands for preparing food the correct way. But it's also not even just about nutrition, although that's important. It's not just about nutrition. It's about learning how, because your hands are so powerful. Takari, if someone was hurting, you could put your hands on them and say a blessing and they would stop hurting. And I don't think you realize just yet, because you haven't done it yet, just how powerful your hands are because of your intentions. And if you could do that and you would see how powerful that is, like if Christy's sick and you put your hands on her or anybody and you say with all of your heart and soul the blessing that you want them to get better, and you use your hands, you have power and you have magic in your hands, and you always have. That's the reason why you like to be creative and crafty. That's the reason why you like to make things. There's so many lies in today's culture that makes you, not you specifically, but makes today's people feel like they have to rely on everything all the time to get all their needs met, but everything you need is inside of you. Does that make sense?
Yes, I feel like I'm becoming more aware of it. And I have had visions of, I feel like it was from Takari's life of the food we made.
Yeah, because that was something that was very important to you personally and to our culture. Now, if you want to ask me any questions about your life, I can try to elaborate.
Oh, I just love hearing you on whatever you want to tell me because I just love your knowledge.
Well, the Catholic saint that was named Takari, she was named after you because she was in your lineage and she came from your child. Like, Christy was your daughter, and then, but she had a child, they had a child, they had a child, and then whenever the lady that did all the holy work that was acknowledged by the Catholic Church, she became a saint and she was named after you.
Oh, that's very beautiful.
Because there were so many stories told, passed through the generations about the life that you lived and how you would be able to bless the crops if the crops weren't growing and they would grow overnight, and how you would be able to bless the sick, and how you would be able to do all these things with your hands and with your mind, and how you taught people to be fair, and how you helped create the democracy about the fourth generation law, and how you didn't want every single person to be punished. By the time you were 70 or 80 years old, then everybody thought that you were like, because your ideas and your thoughts were so holy, they thought that you were channeling the Sky Mother and the Moon Grandmother. They thought that you were channeling that. And so because you didn't want there to be like revenge, and you didn't want there to be, you wanted it to make sure that the crime was really, really, really bad if the person had to do punishment, because if the crime wasn't really, really, really bad, that was going to affect people for generations to come in that family, then you thought they needed counseling. And everybody thought that was just so amazing, because before you said that, everybody was always fighting all the time. So you helped create and establish this democracy. That's the reason I was telling you about it.
Oh, wow. I don't even know the magnitude then.
Correct. And then whenever the white people came here, the white men, they were our friends at first, even though they were deceiving us. They were our friends at first because two reasons. They wanted to learn what kind of crops could grow here and what kind of food would work best here. And they also wanted to figure out a democracy because they were tired of being a part of a dictatorship, because that's what they came from, where one person makes all the rules whether you like it or not. They wanted to have a democracy where you could vote, and they did learn a lot from us. But where they went away from us is they didn't realize the importance of women, because women balance everything out. Because if a man is just running everything, he has no impulse control and he has anger. But if you have a woman helping him along and kind of getting the final say on things, she's more coming from her heart, because she doesn't have that anger inside of her, and she can be more logical. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly.
That makes perfect sense. So there's stories about me
Yes.
in the Mohawk Nation.
The Mohawk is the tribe that currently, we call it nation. They're called the Six Nations, and they used to be the Five Nations. But it's another word for tribe. But they're all from what you say, the Iroquois people. It's all from the same. And the Mohawk people know about you.
Okay, so I can research me.
I think so.
I can research Takari, and
I think you should be able to.
If not, I can just spirit right.
Yes, you can do that as well. But if you ever get to meet any of these people that are still alive and well today, I mean, some of them are lawyers, and some of them are teachers, and some of them are healers, and they go out and they try to live and do their best they can in a white man's world. But when they come home, they're coming home back to their tribe.
Okay.
And this is not everybody, but there are people who want to make a difference. So you have your, I don't even know what number, 18th niece or something like that. She's the head of Children's Services in New York State. And and I don't even know if the 18th is even a correct number, but she's your niece, passed down, passed down, passed down. She's the head of Children's Services in New York State, and that's a very holy and important job. We have to lift her up in prayer constantly. We have to, there's this tradition that we have that's called the peace tree, okay? So the peace tree, and this is important for you to learn about this. The peace tree is, it's like a stick, and the point when we're praying and when we're worshiping and when we're in our circles, the peace tree cannot, I'm getting chills. The peace tree cannot touch the ground. Well, it can never touch the ground. Never, ever, ever, ever touch the ground. It's never touched the ground, okay? And the point behind that is, it is a thing of worship, but the point behind that is it's got a bigger meaning. So today they say, even though the peace tree is from so many generations ago, today they say, you're my peace tree. The women, I think I'm going to start crying. The women today are the peace tree. It's a figurative, but it actually was a real thing back then. It was an actual real stick, but a really pretty stick kind of that was decorated and painted. But today the women are the peace tree. So if you have somebody suffering from depression, we're not saying that we don't sometimes fail. We're not saying that sometimes we don't get it wrong, because we've had so much oppression for so long. Of course we're going to have bad days, but all the women gather around that woman and make her the peace tree. We won't let her fall. So when you have your niece who is the head of Children's Services in New York State, when you have someone like her, we have to pray constantly. We have to come together constantly. We have to always make her the peace tree, because you know what she's doing? She's getting our kids back. She's saving our kids that are being kidnapped and raped. She's getting those kids back. We can't let her fall. We can't let her lose that job. We have to make sure that when she has a bad day, she has a safe place to come to. So she comes to the church with all the women at night. This is happening right now, current day. She comes to the church with all the women at night, and we have to lift her up. But there's also a holy woman who cooks holy food from the land for all of us. And that's a very important role as well, because she nourishes us. Because if we're eating too much white flour and we're eating too much sugar and salt, we're going to get sick in our brain, because those things are not natural. And when you get sick in your brain, you get things like depression and anxiety and also health problems. So it's important that we try to have at least one meal a day with this lady. We have to hold her up. We have to keep her and make her our peace tree. We have a couple of lawyers. We have teachers. We have people that go out into the world every day. And I'm not just bringing up these important roles. Every woman is our peace tree. Every woman. This culture would not still be alive if it weren't for the women, because the men, their spirits would have broken a long time ago, and they would have just conformed to the white man's ways. But our women will not let this culture die. Our women are still raising. That's the reason why when I was your mom in this life and I had my sons, I raised good sons. I did a better job on my sons than I did my daughters. And I know that me as Gail, which I'm not Gail right now, but me as Gail feels really badly that I didn't know how to nurture my daughters as well as I did my sons. But for some reason, I was just very, very, very convinced that I had to make sure that my sons knew how to respect women. And that's just something that every generation of our lineage is always making sure that the sons know how important the women are, because the women are actually the smarter sex, because they think with their heart. They make all their decisions with their heart, which makes them more intelligent. And it's so important that men are raised starting from a young boy to understand that God is the God that we worshiped in the sky woman. She's a woman. The moon is a grandmother. She's a woman. Okay. The male is very important. He provides physical protection, and he provides the seed, and he provides companionship. And also out in the world, he's the one that's respected because he is the masculine. But when he comes home, he submits to the woman. And it's hard for us to explain our culture to someone who isn't in our culture, because they think this is unbalanced. Someone's being worshipped. No one should be worshipped. But it's not like that. It is very balanced. We believe that everybody is equal. But if you're not raising your sons up to understand how special women are, then women get beat down. And then you have this corrupt nation filled with all these men who are making impulsive decisions and having regret later. And then you have wars, and you have prisons, and you have control issues, and you have all this corruption. But if a man can seek the balance of a woman to help him with his wisdom because she's thinking with her heart, then everything is balanced and everyone is equal.
Oh, that makes so much sense. That's our goal. Is that the uprising of the divine feminine?
Yes, it is. Yes, that's another thing. People are always talking about Africa and Egypt, and they're talking about the Asians, and all of these people have tapped into it. All these cultures that I just mentioned, they have tapped into the divine. They have knowledge of it. But we have it too. We've already... I don't think that anybody's set of knowledge in their culture is any better than anybody else's set of knowledge. But what I'm trying to say is, first of all, you're not living in Tibet. You're not living in Egypt. You're not living in China. You're not living in Africa. You're living on our land, and you have us inside of you. So why would we not teach you our ways to make you understand how important the divine feminine is? You don't have to take a 3,000 mile trip across the world to learn about spiritualism. You are spiritualism. You are one. And as soon as you get separateness out of your head, you'll heal with your hands as well. As soon as you realize that there's nothing insecure about you, there's nothing about you that is incomplete at all. You are already spirituality. You are already God. You don't seek something because it's not outside of you. It is you. So don't let all this noise of the world and your phone and your TV and other people and their agendas and their own insecurities and their own obsession with money or beauty or being right all the time or whatever the case is, don't let that confuse you and make you insecure, because you already are spirit. You already are the answer that you seek. You are holy. Every pore in your body is holy. Every word that you speak is holy. Everything that you do, every strand of hair on your head, everything about you is already godlike, because you are spirituality. Stop seeking for something outside of yourself. And I think this message it's for everybody, and it is certainly for you, because you do have just that little crack in the door. Your door is not all the way shut yet on your knowledge. You do have that little crack where you do still believe in separateness to an extent. But Christy has fallen back into the trap where she's just so confused. And I understand this is her hormones and it's going to get fixed. I understand that. But once she realizes that she is the answers, she doesn't have to be insecure. She doesn't have to make it her mission to find spirituality. She doesn't have to seek out what the people in this culture thinks, or what the people... Yes, that's all nice, because balance is nice and knowledge is nice. And it's nice to look at something other than greed to find that balance inside of yourself. That is very nice. But if Christy could just stop for 10 seconds and realize, and you too, if you feel like you're struggling with this, but I think she's struggling more, you created life. Do you think God would have let you create life if you weren't already God? I mean, do you think God would let you look at all of the things that you do every single day for the people that you love? Look at how much power you have for the people that you love. You've cultivated, not only did you create life, you've created wonderful human beings that are amazing and beautiful and magical. And then they created wonderful human beings that are amazing and beautiful and magical. And you've been able to find a romantic partner who has grown more in love with you every single day. That's amazing. That's amazing and it's because you're a spiritual being. That's the reason why your romantic partner doesn't get bored with you. But that in itself is a miracle. Of all the billions and billions of people in the world, most of them are running around very, very confused and very misguided and very greedy. But you were able to heal yourself enough, and heal yourself isn't even the correct word. That's not even the correct word. We don't even like that terminology, although we understand why you use it. The correct terminology would be remember. You remember yourself enough to where you were able to draw in this person with all the chaos and all the greed and all the confusion and all the lies going on around you. You were able to create a relationship that can pass the tests of time and get better every day. That's a miracle. You only can do that because you are spiritual. You are spirit. You are holy already. Your children are not in prison. They're not in jail. They're not out committing crimes. They're not hurting themselves. They're good. And they're going to keep getting better. And they're going to keep getting wiser. And you don't have nothing to worry about. And this is for you and Christy and anyone listening or watching this. This is for them as well. Your children are going to continue to get wiser. If you have the common sense enough, and it's not even common sense, if you have the ability to tune into what I'm saying enough right now to go, I trust. It's not even I trust the universe, I trust God, although those are good things to say. It's not even that. It's just I trust because you've seen your children are thriving, your grandchildren are thriving, your marriage is thriving, you're not homeless, you have nice things, whatever the case may be for you. You haven't ended up in a mental institution, you're not dead, you didn't get consequences for most of the stuff that you, by America's standards, you should have went to jail or prison for already. You didn't get no consequences for so many things because you have this protection. Why is it so hard for you to say these two words, I trust?
I trust.
Right.
I'm learning that now. Just like the last week, I've had so much gratitude for everything in my life.
I'm sorry that I got loud.
No, I love it. I love it. I love it because that just helps me. So that's why I'm here now, is to bring all this forward.
I just know that if you were to go back and attach yourself to that culture, even for just an hour a day, or whatever the case is for you, whatever you can figure out within yourself, if you were to go back and attach yourself, yes, you would go physically with your physical body, you would go and find these people and be there for them. I know you would because you have a good heart, but also just your thinking would activate something inside of you, inside of your soul, that would call forth all the things that you need to create the change, because there is going to be an uprising, and I don't know when it's going to be, but I would rather it not be violent. Wouldn't you rather it not be violent?
Definitely.
Our people are getting sick of their children being kidnapped and raped and beaten and their men being killed if they try to speak out. The only thing we have going for us right now is our women.
And spirituality.
Yes, because our women remember the spirituality. Most of our men have been murdered. Most of our women are having to marry people from other tribes, and that's fine. You can marry whoever you want to marry. But most of our women don't even have the original men. They're trying to raise the original men. Do you see what I'm saying, though?
Yes.
Because our men get murdered or locked up or sent to Canada if they try to speak out about the injustices.
And y'all got my back on this.
Yes, as long as you can activate that thing inside of you that says, I want to research, I want to dig, I want to find out about this, I want to learn, then more of you will get activated. Okay. But you have to take the initiative, and you have to say, yes, I'm interested in this. Yes, I'm going to learn about this. And then all the things will be given to you to pave the path for you.
As it goes. Is that why I've been seeing all those lights and connections lately?
Yes, those are all of your people.
Okay. And they all got my back too.
Yes.
You always say every day, I'm not alone.
And that's the reason why when I was your mother, Gail, is the reason why I was so confident as a person. I always had confidence as a person. I always wanted my daughters to have confidence as a person. I was never going to, so many women, they get, I don't know what the word is, they get overtaken by a dysfunctional man. And I wasn't going to let that happen. And I understand that the circumstances I was given in the life of Gail were beyond my control, and there was a lot of abuse that you don't even know about from my childhood. I get that, and that gave me some imbalance in my brain, and instead of trusting my soul and my heart, I trusted medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the essence of who I was remained. I always had confidence. I always knew that I was...
Always had strength.
Yes, and I wanted my children that were female to grow up to be confident and not take nothing from nobody.
Oh, I love that. So Hiawatha and Gail's been my mother several times.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. I know I have more questions. I just can't think of them right now.
That's okay.
So that's why I've been getting visions of. I had a vision of soup with corn in it the other day.
Corn is very important for your nourishment. You can make bread out of it. You can learn how to crush it and make bread out of it.
Can I have opened my remembrance of all of that?
Yes.
And that's why I've been having the urge to do canning and
yes,
all of that.
yes,
Okay, so I have been picking up on my intuition.
Yes, and you're going to teach others, and it's going to be amazing.
Oh, I love that! I love that! I love that! Do we have any other messages for Takari?
I think I got a little swept away because I'm your mother, and I've never been the gentle, affectionate type. I'm sorry that I wasn't being super soft and gentle and affectionate. I've always been more of authoritative because that's the way that you, specifically you, my child, that's the way that you learned. You learned more with direct and authoritative communication rather than like smothering affection. But I know that if your spirit guide would have came through, you would have gotten more detailed, like scientific information, let's say, but you would not have gotten the voice and the soul of your mother speaking to you in the way that you needed to speak to, because your specific soul likes direct and clear communication. You are not the type of person who likes to be cuddled and smothered with affection and talk like a baby and all this and that and everything. You actually really learn better when someone is just very direct with you. And I knew I had to beg until I could be the one to come through to bring this information to you.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for that. And I'm so thankful I got to talk to you.
I love you, and we are together all the time on the other side. But you have this mission that you have to complete on this side as well.
Yes, and I have y'all's guidance. And can you tell me about the Sky Woman and the Moon Grandmother?
Yes, the Sky Woman is our version of God. That's the version of God that we know and that we believe and that we still teach our children today. That's who we pray to. And the moon is where most people get their visions. Most people get their visions and their enlightenment when so we do church at night, and it's not even called church what we do, but that's your version of church. We do that at night, and we always talk to the moon because we just feel as though the sun exhausts people. The sun can bring dehydration, but the moon energizes. The moon balances hormones. The moon gives you visions and clarity. The moon helps enlightenment. The moon brings romance. The moon brings rest. For us, she is the grandmother to the Sky Woman.
Oh, I love that.
And we have always taught that family is so important. That's the reason why you are the way that you are with your children and your siblings and your grandchildren, because just like in our houses where we had the long houses and we would have many generations living together in one house, that's the same way that you're doing it, only with your heart. How you're taking your nephew in and you're going to become his grandmother, and how you're teaching your grandchildren and your children. Your children are actually learning a lot from you even still, probably even more than when they were kids. How they're learning from you how important family is. That's really holy what you're doing. You're not turning your back. You're not saying, oh, you're grown, go figure it out. I've got my own life now. I'm ready to enjoy my life. You're saying, no, come home whenever you want. Bring your babies, bring your nephew, let the siblings come. We want everybody here all the time. That's amazing. Not many people have the spiritual sense to understand why that's so important. And your kids are getting nurtured and your siblings are getting nurtured every time they're around you, because they can feel that love is authentic.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Is there any certain words we can say to the Sky Woman or Moon Grandmother so we can teach people about them?
I'm listening.
I am listening.
I'm listening. I trust.
I trust.
Give me everything that you have for me today. I am open. I am here. I am present. I am not paying attention to anything but you. And then any thoughts you get, whatever it is, just any thoughts you get, just pay attention to them.
Okay, I'm getting better at that.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at that. So when I send blessings out, I can send them to to our women and our children.
Yes, your women are your peace tree because your men don't think with their hearts, okay? This is just a fact. Yes, men have hearts and they can be activated, but do you want to know how a man's heart is activated? The love of a woman. He doesn't get his heart unless he has a love of a woman. So that's where a really good mother, but then a really good wife comes into. A man does not walk around, if he doesn't have a mother, he does not walk around thinking with his heart. If he does not have a good mother, if he does not have a wife to activate him, he does not think with his heart. And guess what happens when you don't think with your heart? Chaos.
Yeah.
Greed. Control. Those are what happens when you think with your brain, which is what men think about unless they're activated by a female. Because the female, unless she is distorted and, I don't know what the word is, unless she's already almost got the devil inside of her, which some females will go through that phase because they didn't have another female to show them. But usually they'll outgrow it in a couple of years, usually. But my point being is that every woman in your life is your peace tree. Don't let them fall. Because in essence, what you're doing for them, you're doing for you.
Okay. That makes so much sense. And you said I have so much energy in my hands. I can point my hands out there and intentionally visualize what I want for these women as well.
Yes, every woman from the Hiawatha tribe can do that, but you are the strongest. And you still have that power inside of you. Just like it's the same concept when you gave your daughter Cheyenne a blessing, which Cheyenne was the name of the town that we lived in, by the way. But just like when you gave her a blessing, it's the same concept. It's just like if someone has a headache and you touch them and you put every ounce of love inside of your intention that you can possibly put in that intention, that headache will go away. But once you see that you have that power, once you start using that power, and I understand like the way that you live today, people don't go around touching each other. I understand that. And that's something that you've outgrown as a nation. But when you do have those moments, when you can do that, just like the baby that Christy brought over here, he is a pretty calm baby. But did you notice he didn't cry at all when he was over here?
Yeah.
Because you held him when he first got here.
Oh.
Because you put that touch on him, that calming touch that you said, everything's fine. You're healed. You don't have any needs. Your needs are already met.
I did do that.
Yes.
I remember that because I sent him healing vibes.
Yes, that's the reason why he didn't cry the whole entire time he was here.
Since I sent that intention, I did it.
Yes, and you touched him.
So I could do that with anybody.
Yes.
Oh. Okay. Oh, thank you for the confirmation. I can't think of any more questions right now. Unless you want to tell me all about Takari on how it was.
I think that your spirit guides, your teachers on the other side, I think they want to talk to you again in 1 week. And I think they're going to give you more information without having to come through the filter of a mother. Even though I say I'm an emotional mother, I don't show emotion because I'm more vocal than anything. But I think they're going to give you like factual, intellectual, scientific, this is what you do, this is how you do it, this is when you do it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I really think they want you guys to be doing this once a week.
Okay. Because I feel your love coming in my heart today.
I'm so happy and glad that you feel it, and I'm so happy and glad that you didn't think that what kind of mother is not being soft and coddling. I've never coddled you because you didn't like it.
I didn't take it that way. It felt like home.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, is there anything else you'd like to bring through for this recording?
Just keep using your hands and keep cooking and gardening and crafting, and you will start tapping more into that, what that thing is about you specifically, where I don't even know what the word in your language is, but your hands are so powerful because they carry all of your intention.
Okay. Oh my gosh, thank you.
And I love you, and I will talk to you again.
I love you too. Thank
Goodbye,
you.
daughter.
Goodbye.